friend, can you believe that it is September 2020, which means we have made it through the summer of what most would describe as a challenging year, which also means that we are more mentally and emotionally tougher and stronger than we realize, which also means that we are more resilient than we have previously given ourselves credit for. We are resilient. We are more mentally and emotionally tougher than we assumed in the past. Now, why do I say that? Because we have established new norms, and we are now in a rhythm. Now, I'm not saying that it has not been difficult, but what I am saying is that we have adapted to all of the challenges. Our challenges have made us more determined, tenacious, and persistent. These challenges, although difficult, have helped us grow in our endurance. So let's take advantage of what we have accomplished so far. Let's talk about some of the behaviors that have gotten us this far, and how we can intentionally and purposely continue those behaviors so that we can continue to be strong and even tougher when facing challenges. These challenges of 2020 have not gone without teaching us something. Our goal in today's message is to share principles of resiliency that will get us through future challenges. But before we move on, if you'd like to hear about future videos, press subscribe. Also, if this message blesses you, then you're okay to press the like button as well. And also share principles that you use that help you get through tough times in the comment section. Now, the first thing we need to help us get through tough times are other people. Yes, the first point is that simple. We need other people. In a nutshell, we need supportive, authentic, and life-building relationships. In fact, if this quarantine has taught us anything, it has taught us the importance of relationships. Think about this. If you were to study how people get through some of the most difficult times in life, they will tell you it is other relationships. You will discover that supportive relationships were the key. I know we sometimes take relationships for granted. I know that there are people in our corner that we can count on, but it is those relationships that help us get through. Well, many of you will say that this has been the most isolated time you have ever had in your life because of the quarantine. Well, I would compassionately remind you that you can change that. How? Technology has afforded us the opportunity to be more connected to people than we have been able in the past. I have watched movies with my daughter on Netflix. I have gone to Bible studies through Zoom. I have shared run experiences with Facebook friends. I have attended church on Zoom. I have picked up the phone to call and reconnect to friends. You see, people, despite our inability to be around each other all the time, we can still make connections. In a nutshell, we do not have to be in the presence of someone physically to spend time with them mentally and emotionally. In fact, it is these relationships that can help us get through some of the most difficult times we have. It is about relationships. In fact, the Bible tells us in one of my favorite Old Testament wisdom books, the book of Ecclesiastes, that relationships are important. This verse says in Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 9 through 12, two people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help. But someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Verse 11 further emphasizes this fact. It says, likewise, two people lying close together can keep each other warm. But how can one be warm alone? A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but two can stand back to back and conquer. Three are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. You see, this Bible verse illustrates the importance of relationships, especially when life is challenging. Verse 10 says, if one person falls, the other can reach out and help. But someone who falls alone is in real trouble. My friends, relationships are key to any challenge we have. So to fix this, if we are lonely, we can reach out to people that can be great supports to us during times of challenge. You see, to be resilient, to get through and overcome every challenge we face, we need other people in our lives. This means that we may have to humble ourselves and initiate relationships. It is okay to call first. It is okay to invite someone in your life. Relationships will help you get through any challenge. In fact, if you are really having a hard time, it is okay to call a professional to request their support in your challenges. You see, every study on resilience will confirm that we need supportive people in our lives to get through tough times. So I challenge you to think of two people you can call, text, or Zoom this week. Call them, text them, or Zoom with them. The second way we get through tough times is having a deep sense of purpose. Now, why is the subject of purpose important when it comes to dealing with tough times? One, because it answers two important questions. The important questions that it answers is the most important question. Why am I here? Why do I exist? There must be a reason for our existence. The second question purpose answers is there anything good that I can gain from this tough experience? Is this experience beneficial for me or even others? Now, there is no doubt that some of the most useful and purposeful people during this tough time have been those we call essential workers. Healthcare workers, sanitation workers, and supply personnel that work at places like Amazon, FedEx, and other companies that are too numerous to mention. You see, we call them heroes because they provide a service for all of us. We call them heroes because they provide something important to society. We call them heroes because through their actions, their purpose, their usefulness, they are making a difference. You see, that gives us some insight in terms of how purpose connects to tough times. Why is this important to note? Because studies on resilience have shown that those who believe they have a purpose or a sense of calling in their lives fare a lot better when dealing with challenges than those who do not believe they have a purpose. If I believe that I have a literal reason for living on this earth and going through this experience, then it makes it a lot easier to go through. Now, that being said, the Bible says that we all have a purpose. Each person that God has created has been given a purpose. No one is born by accident. In fact, one of the greatest joys in life can be to seek God so that we can live out His purpose for our lives. Think about this. In the natural world, everything that has been created with a purpose. The purpose of a hammer is to drive in nails. You can use it for other things, but its primary purpose is to drive in and pull out nails. As a result, everything created has a particular purpose. Likewise, God has created every single human being for a purpose. We all have internal and intrinsic value. We don't have to wait for others to tell us that we have value or that we matter. Why? Because value and worth comes from God. We literally bear His image. Therefore, we obviously have important and divine purposes. One of my favorite verses in Psalms is Psalms 139 because it confirms this fact. It says this: "You made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it." That speaks of value. Verse 16. "You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed." You see, my friend, this passage lets us know that God has a plan for every single person born, even when times are challenging. There is a reason. One of the joys and challenges of life is to connect to God through Christ and discover what that reason is. Now think about this. The job that we do every single day may be the very purpose God has called us to do for the benefit of the world. No matter how mediocre we assume our job is. Your job and relationships may be your divine purpose. If you do them to the glory of God, then they may be your divine assignment here on this earth. I make that point because sometimes the assumption is I have to work in a church or at a soup kitchen for me to have a purpose. We are learning right now that everybody has a purpose to contribute. Now, this is an embarrassing personal example that I'm going to share, but growing up, I remember looking down on those who were sanitation workers at my high school. I was immature, and I assumed that the janitor obviously wasted his or her life. But think about this. In this COVID-19 environment, when our loved ones return to school, who do you believe is going to be one of the most important persons in our schools other than teachers? Yes, the man and woman who is sanitizing the desk, the tables, and the toilets. For some strange reason, cleanliness is one of the most important things in the world today, which means those who clean have a divine purpose. Another way to think about this is if you're brave enough to go to a restaurant, what is the first thing you think about when you sit down at a table? Yes, it is whether it is clean or not. As a result, we now see the value and appreciate the person who picks up the dishes and wipes the table. We hope that they've used sanitizer that has at least 50% alcohol in it. Now, why is this important to point out? Because when a person knows their occupation or their job is making a difference for others, research clearly states that they can face any challenge in life. Why? Because they began to understand that life is not simply about them, but that it is about making a difference no matter how mediocre they believe their job is. We get through tough times by living out God's purpose. As Colossians 2:23 says, work willingly at whatever you do, as though you were working for the Lord rather than for people. If we do our work as a divine purpose, research has shown that we will become more resilient. It will give us the ability to get through tough times. Now, before we talk about the last point, if this message is helpful and you'd like to hear future messages, then press subscribe. But also, if you would like, press the like button. But also share in the comment section how you get through tough times. Do you see your job as God's divine purpose for you? Now, the third way we get through tough times is through prayer. Now, here is where I need you to keep listening, because in almost every message I've emphasized prayer. But what I want you to focus on today is the promising scientific research on how prayer helps us get through tough times. Now, researchers at Baylor University looked at the data of 1,714 volunteers who participated in a study titled Prayer, Attachment to God, and Symptoms of Anxiety-Related Disorder among U.S. adults. Their study focused on general anxiety, social anxiety, obsession, and compulsion. Their research found that people who prayed to a loving and protective God were less likely to experience anxiety-related disorders, worry, fear, self-consciousness, social anxiety, and obsessive-compulsive behavior. This illustrates the power of prayer. This illustrates that when we talk to a loving and compassionate and divine God, it makes a difference. Also, the research of a doctor from Duke University surveyed more than 1,000 studies appraising the effects of prayer on health in his book, Handbook of Religion and Health. One of his findings, among others, was that people who are more religious tend to become depressed less often. Not saying that they don't get depressed, but less often. And when they do become depressed, they recover more quickly. Now, no one would deny that we are currently living in a somewhat chaotic and confused world. As a result, we need something that is bigger than we are, who will bring a sense of inner peace, order, and stability. And that is not a politician. Prayer acknowledges our belief in something bigger. To be specific, my prayers acknowledge that I believe in someone bigger, and his name is Jesus Christ. And he can help us get through anything. I pray that you will trust him today, my friend. God bless.